WWE Elimination Chamber is this Saturday morning. By the time Saturday begins for most people on the East Coast or even on the West Coast, this pay-per-view will be over with. Elimination Chamber will be complete. It's 5 o'clock Eastern, and then it's even earlier than that if you start to go out west. Good news for the people in England, though. For the first time, I think, since Money in the Bank, they get to watch a pay-per-view not in the middle of the night. I think it's around 11 a.m., in the UK. So good news for them. They'll be able to watch it around lunchtime. My question to you, though, kind of, when it comes to your availability, we'd all kind of prefer it to be at night, prime time. That's great.
Sure, yeah.
But 10 a.m. or 5 a.m., which would you prefer?
Honestly, 5 a.m. I mean, I speak to that because my lifestyle's a little different with my with little kids. So I'm usually my two girls. I'm up early anyways. So for me, it's like, okay, I can hammer down, say by 8 o'clock. 8, 9 o'clock maybe that in the morning the show's done, and then I can just get out with the rest of my day. Versus I wake up, I'm up for a bit, wait till 10, watch the show, and then I gotta wait till the afternoon to go do what I need to do. Yeah. So for me personally, I'm gonna be up watching it live at 5 a.m. I'm gonna have my alarm set. I'll be up early enough watching the whole thing live.
See, and this is kind of interesting for me. Obviously, typically, this is a difficult one. If this was the usual schedule for Raw and SmackDown, like I said, like we live in the UK or somewhere else, it's difficult. But for this rare occasion, this once-a-year essential thing, or this once essentially, I don't remember if I woke up early for the last time they were in Australia for Super Showdown. I might have watched it later. I can't remember. But the point is, hey, it's unique. It's different. I think it's one of those things that's kind of fun to participate in, kind of like, people say, oh, you can watch it later. And I say, but that's kind of the fun in wrestling in general. It's kind of that community participation. It's being able to, post things, see things live. I might go to a friend's house, have some breakfast, so it's just that kind of thing. So I'll definitely be watching it live. Typically 5 a.m. for every wrestling pay-per-view, not so much. But in this case, hey, what's great? It gives me the opportunity to do a ton of stuff too. Like it doesn't take up any of my Saturday. I'm adding 3 hours to my Saturday to watch it because the hours that it's taking place, I'd be sleeping. So I'm adding to my Saturday, and then by the time it's over with, I'll get to go on with my Saturday like planned. I don't know. I have Saturday night off from my other job at a radio station, which is random because I got Friday and Sunday to work this week. So my opportunities, I think I might even go up to Canada, go to dinner with some family. So hey, it's all on the table because it's a 5 a.m. pay-per-view, and I'll be done by 8:30 probably. Yep. And the pay-per-view itself, I mean, don't necessarily know the length of the pay-per-view itself. 8:30 is probably when it's going to be over, especially based on the matches. I don't think it can go really much longer than that. But building into Elimination Chamber, did you see the Austin Theory, issue he had with some presser this week?
Well done by Theory. Fantastic, Austin Theory. That was great. I believe that was pretty staged, if I'm being honest, but I thought he did a great job of selling it. And selling it where he really, took it to that reporter guy. Like that was cool. Like I watched it. I watched it actually about a couple hours ago this afternoon. Earlier in the day on my lunch, I was like, oh, this is nice. This is good. And I like it because you know what? Like I feel like Austin Theory hasn't been used very well recently. To be honest, I feel like, and this is and I'm not going to use the person's name, but a previous booker who is no longer with the company saw a lot more in Austin Theory than I feel like Triple H has in recent years. So I feel like Austin Theory has been underutilized under the new regime, so to speak. And I do want to see more Austin Theory. I do want to see more Grayson Waller. I think Grayson Waller is a very talented individual. I feel like they're just kind of stuck in the abyss, so to speak. Like they're not being used the right way. Like I feel like, yeah, it's a shtick. They're going to have the Australian, wrestler Grayson Waller do his Grayson Waller effect in Australia, and that makes sense. But he's not wrestling. Like obviously, I think he wants to wrestle. He wants to be in a match. But I feel like both of those guys, they just been underutilized. So I think the whole thing with Austin Theory was great. I think it's going to give him some extra buzz, and I feel like good time to have buzz because WrestleMania season is here. So it could be a good thing for him heading into the WrestleMania event coming up in April.
I will say, which again is strange. We talked about this in previous, episodes, and previous videos, and previous stuff, and I think it held true. We were wondering if this card was going to transform a little bit, which it really has not. Frankly, it's crazy, and this is coming from me, which because I try to gloss over everything that happened during the pandemic, the Thunderdome, whatever era. But even one of that elimination card, just this elimination chamber is not just not worthy of 49,000 people being on hand. Essentially, it is not as good as last year's card. It is not as good as the previous year's card. Like, I don't understand. Like, to me, again, for this to be what will be the largest crowd ever to attend a WWE Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, and frankly, from what I believe, the largest crowd ever to attend a pay-per-view in which the Elimination Chamber was at it, right? We're talking New Year's Revolutions and the Survivor Series '02 when the Elimination Chamber was invented. So of all the Elimination Chamber matches and pay-per-views themselves and No Way Outs, there won't be one that has had a crowd as large as this. And frankly, it is a little lackluster. We've talked about this before. The Rock and Roman Reigns was not advertised, but was talked about for this pay-per-view solely for the fact of the atmosphere of the crowd and the circumstances, not for the event, right? WrestleMania could be at the Performance Center and we'd be talking about Rock versus Roman Reigns because it's WrestleMania. That's the name of the show. We're talking about the biggest matches at the name of the show. We're only talking Rock and Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber for the fact of the matter is that because of the venue itself. Like last year, Brock and Bobby Lashley, a WrestleMania caliber match, and frankly a match that I think they probably wish, in hindsight, they maybe saved for WrestleMania. They were trying to pull some things out with Bray Wyatt and Bobby Lashley. Obviously, that didn't happen. The health issues that we found out obviously mattered a lot more later on in life. But at the time, it looked like they were kind of finishing up Brock and Bobby at Elimination Chamber to move on when they're like, Brock and Bobby, why did we have that at such a meaningless B-show pay-per-view when we could have saved it for WrestleMania? That's what Elimination Chamber is, right? Elimination Chamber isn't supposed to be the Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam. But in this circumstance, yeah, you're wondering, like, where's Brock and Bobby? Obviously, in that specific instance, we know where Brock is, right? And we understand that, hey, Brock specifically is probably a kink in the plans due to, obviously, the recent stuff going on for this pay-per-view. But overall, just in general, Brock aside, Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax, it's great and all that Rhea Ripley's from Australia. It's a big country, the same size, the United States of America, where Rhea Ripley is from, which is Adelaide. It's like a 28-hour drive, so like essentially a 5-hour flight. So it'd be like hosting a pay-per-view in a stadium in Los Angeles, California, because you, Brandon, are from the United States of America. Yes, you're from the opposite side of the country. You're from a part where you've never even been to that part of the country before. But hey, the country is the country. It's all just one thing. That's kind of how Rhea Ripley is being treated here. But I don't necessarily know if that was the original plan for Rhea Ripley to be showcased like this. I just can't. I don't think when 49,000 plus tickets were trying to be sold for this cricket stadium in Perth, Australia, they were thinking, we're going to headline this with Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley. I mean,
do you really think they're gonna? You think they're gonna headline it with them? You think it's Nia Jax?
Well, what is the better option? And that's the problem. I think you're going to headline it with that because what are you going to headline it with?
I think at this point, the only thing you can probably out of the four. I mean, there's so much to choose from, obviously, but I would say the men's chamber because I feel like there's a lot of factors in there. I feel like that's going to be the main event. But here's what I would say: I feel like it'd be a disservice to put Rhea in the middle. I think she starts the show. I think that's what they do. I think they're going to start Rhea. So I think the way it's going to go, I think it's going to go Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax start the show. I do think the Elimination Chamber for the women's side will be number 2. So I think it's going to be back-to-back women, and then we'll have the back-to-back men's matches, essentially. I feel like they do it that way.
Well, and here's the thing, though, and this is why this is so weird, right? This is so weird that this is the first stadium show not in the United States since Clash at the Castle, right? Yeah. And you're going to be headlined by neither world championship, but a number 1 contenders match for what essentially, I'm not going to mince words, the number one contenders match for the secondary world championship. You're either main eventing with Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax, which isn't even essentially Rhea Ripley's greatest challenge. Again, this isn't Rhea Ripley's greatest challenge even. This isn't like, oh, you're headlining it with Rhea Ripley, but hey, it's Rhea Ripley versus Trish Stratus or Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill or some sort of big super, Rock Roman kind of women's version of that. We're not getting – it's Rhea Ripley in a B-show defense, right? She's facing Nia Jax.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that because they are packaging Nia Jax as this unbeatable force. I mean, look what happened on Raw this week where she destroyed the entire field essentially.
Like, yeah, but you're getting Becky Lynch over here who's talking about, she's more interested in winning this Elimination Chamber so she can get to Rhea Ripley. She's not even essentially, and Pat McAfee had to kind of correct a little bit during her speech, like when she's like, when I get to WrestleMania and face Rhea Ripley, and Pat McAfee's like, or Nia Jax, like that's the kind of glossing over we're going here. So it's like Rhea Ripley in a match in where it doesn't really seem like her championship is in all that much peril when it comes to the storyline set of things, right? It seems like a B-show kind of defense to get to, it's like when The Rock faced CM Punk in his rematch at Elimination Chamber on the road to Rock and Cena at WrestleMania for the championship. It just doesn't seem like her championship's in peril here. And then your other option is a number one contendership for the Seth Rollins belt, which frankly, right now, Seth Rollins is getting more traction with his Cody Rhodes, Grayson Waller effect, and or if he's going to be in a tag team match at WrestleMania against Rock and Roman Reigns. Like the fact that whoever he's going to face out of this is essentially his secondary match at WrestleMania, and Rhea Ripley is thinking of this as her secondary match of what she's going to do at WrestleMania. There's just nothing on this card that is really like, wow, this is just, it's what you'd expect from a poor or an average Elimination Chamber build. But the fact that we're putting it in front of like 50,000 people in Australia, it's kind of weird.
Where do you think? I would say this, and my other guess too is the Grayson Waller effect. I think that's going to be smack dab in the middle. I think you're going to have 2 matches before Grayson Waller effect, 2 matches after. What do you think?
I mean, or right before the main event, whatever the main event there is. And we kind of talked about this often. We'll say it here. I think the Grayson Waller effect, I don't think we're seeing The Rock. I don't think we're seeing Roman Reigns. Triple H said recently to Australian press that there won't be Rock there. Now, that could be a swerve, like you said.
Can we do like I was going to say, it might be a wink and a nod swerve, like, yeah, he's definitely not going to be here. Wink, wink. You know what I mean? Like, you never can believe 100% what they're going to say, especially when it comes to somebody appearing versus not appearing, this and that. Because, to be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me if The Rock is there. They may have to call an audible and say, hey, this event, as constructed, we want, we need to get these folks more bang for the buck. We need you, Rock. We need you out there. And you know what? Maybe he makes it work. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying it's happening. I mean, if Triple H says that, I mean, it could be true, but it might be a swerve.
Australia's a long flight, I will say that much. It's definitely not
the most convenient. He has the means.
I mean, everyone's got, you got the means, right? But yeah. It's a long, Perth, Australia is and even compared to like Sydney, it is a long flight. And we talked about obviously people having the means. One thing that people, I guess, don't realize this, which is kind of crazy. But this is why, going there is differently versus coming back. But going back, so Monday Night Raw this upcoming week is in San Jose in California. So smart on WWE to be in California on the bookends of this, essentially knowing that they could leave right after California. That's like the shortest flight you can take from the U.S. is from California to Australia. And then to essentially not make them come back to the U.S. and then take 5 or more hours to fly somewhere else in the U.S., but to come back to essentially the first stop and then have Raw there. We've seen it before when they've been coming back from Saudi Arabia. They're like, they get back to New York and then they're like, nope, you got to get on another connecting flight because Raw's in Kansas City or something stupid like that. So good on WWE for just essentially bookending this trip with California on both sides. Right. But what people may not realize is that the pay-per-view's on Saturday. WWE Superstars, by the time 8 o'clock p.m. comes around on Saturday night, could be back in the United States because it's in the future, right? So even though Raw is in San Jose on Monday, I imagine like the Rhea Ripleys and the Superstars, they'll be back in the U.S. on Saturday. Like by the time it's 8 p.m. on Saturday night, depending on where you are, and if you're on the West Coast, I mean, for almost very sure, but probably by 8 p.m. Saturday night, a lot of those guys are going to be back in the U.S. So they'll already be back Saturday night when you're having dinner, because that's how time travel works going the other way.
I don't think we'll have any travel woes. I don't think. I mean, they'll have an extra day. I feel like
It is a little bit further than Sydney. I will say that from California, It's a little bit further than Sydney. But yes, you can time travel. I've looked it up myself. The Curiosity, you can, and it's crazy because places like New York City and Los Angeles have things like nonstop flights, and it's crazy to think that you could fly. You could wake up in Australia on Saturday, get on a plane, be on a plane for 20 hours straight, because from Perth to New York City would be a 20-hour flight, which I've been on some long flights. The longest I've been is to the United Kingdom, and it's long straight, and I don't like it. Being on a plane for a long period of time, not the greatest. I've never been in one of those pod ones where you get to sleep. I've just been on the regulars. But it's crazy. You could get on a flight in Perth, Australia on Saturday at 8 p.m. on Saturday night, fly for 20 hours, and get back to like California at 8 p.m. on Saturday night. Like it's like you time traveled, like you didn't miss any time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, but you also have to. They're making up for it because it's like they're going ahead. Going from here to there.
Well, as we're recording this on a Thursday night, we're only just a few hours away from the press conference they're going to be doing on Friday afternoon. So tonight, Thursday night, there's a press event here in the United States, and that's Friday afternoon. So they're probably sleeping right now, or probably waking up as we speak, and it's Friday there, and getting ready to do the Friday afternoon press event that we would watch here on Thursday. So yes, 5 a.m. Like I said, in Hawaii, you're essentially going to be watching Elimination Chamber on Friday.
So right now, I'm just looking it up. Thanks to your favorite search engine, it is 7. So right now we are 13 hours behind.
Yeah, so they're waking up there. So all the WWE superstars, the Austin Theories of the world, they're probably waking up to do some press. Hopefully, better press. They're probably at the local morning shows, radio and television right now as we speak for Friday morning. Luckily, it is not 7 a.m. Friday morning here because I'd have to be getting ready to go to work myself. I still have dinner and a whole night ahead of me. But with that being said. The card is crazy, right? It is just crazy to think how small this card is. For the second pay-per-view in a row, for the first time in WWE history, we only have 4 matches on an elimination or on a pay-per-view card, right? I told you at Royal Rumble, the last 4-match pay-per-view card in history, and the only other one was 1997's Canadian Stampede. So we're getting our third now 4-match pay-per-view card. This will be the second in a row for the first time ever, which is crazy. Now, a quick question, I guess, going off of this. We know the Royal Rumbles are long. Elimination Chambers are kind of long. Do you see WrestleMania being 8 matches in total, like 4 matches per night, or do you think we're going to go back to some sort of normalcy when we get there?
Yeah, I think we'll get some normalcy. I think we'll be more closer to like that 6 mark. I feel like 6, 7 is a safe number for each night. So you'll have 12 to 14 matches. Total. Yeah, over the course of 2 nights. I will say, I think what I'm curious to see is, like, this is going to be a 3-hour show. So what is everything going to be like 30 minutes up? And
it's crazy too, because like the Royal Rumbles, you can guarantee you can make those 1 hour. Those are easy to make an hour.
Yeah.
Making a women's elimination chamber match an hour, that's a tough one, right? Making a men's elimination chamber match an hour, a little bit easier, but still pretty tough. I mean, because again,
so Grayson Waller affects 30 minutes, you think?
I mean, it can't. I mean, maybe from start to finish with everything going on, but that's kind of long for a promo segment like that. I mean, I imagine this isn't going to be a 4-hour pay-per-view. It's going to probably be under 3 hours, or maybe 3 hours.
I bet it's closer to 2.5 than 3.
Yeah, which again, crazy because you're putting 50,000 people in a stadium. I wonder if they're going to give them some dark matches. You know what I mean? Are they?
Here's the thing,
to give 4 matches here?
Think of it this way, though. Like, if somebody goes to like a national championship for basketball, the game's usually only 2 hours. So, I mean, that's the equivalent, and people spend thousands.
I guess I'm looking at it in WWE terms, what WWE fans, are expecting when it comes to these events, right? I'm all more power to Monday Night Raw not being as long as it is. Absolutely, right? I'm more power to
those
shorter shows.
You just hit on something. It would be interesting to see this Elimination Chamber be shorter than every Monday Night Raw. You know what I mean? How crazy?
Well, I mean, there's been some pay-per-views in general. I mean, Monday Night Raw has been 3 hours since 2012, so there's been pay-per-views in the last 12 years of Raw being 3 hours that have definitely been shorter, for sure. I don't know about WrestleManias, but there's been Rumbles and other pay-per-views that have been shorter than Monday Night Raw. That's not really a crazy standard nowadays to do that. But, you know, obviously we know who got screwed here, Dominic Mysterio. I mean, he's not on the card essentially
because is it Tom and Nick or Dominic?
You know, and you know, I hope R-Truth, speaking of that, is at the show. We could use some of his comedy. R-Truth is a gem, man. R-Truth is a gem. Monday Night Raw back in Anaheim. What a segment with him, right? I can't get enough R-Truth right now.
Yeah, R-Truth is so much fun. I mean, the Judgment Day is involved, so I feel like we're gonna see something with R-Truth there. I feel like it has to happen. To me, R-Truth, like you said, you know, he's a gem. He's a one of a kind guy. He's timeless. Like the way he still moves in the ring, being in his 50s, he looks great. He still looks like $1 million. I mean, let's be honest. You know, a lot of people don't remember this, but I believe he was the first African American NWA champion, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he was. I'm pretty sure of that fact. And he had some great runs in WWE back in the day. I mean, I remember my first exposure to Ron Killing's R-Truth was K-Quick when he was teaming up with Road Dogg back
Rowdy.
Getting rowdy. That was
rowdy. I think he was actually in this. I watched recently the Sunday Night Heat, because these are kind of some forgotten gems back in the day. So like Sunday Night Heats get kind of lost on like the kickoff shows, which get preserved kind of with the pay-per-views. But K-Quick, I think, was on a kickoff show match for WrestleMania 17. I mean, the big one in Houston with, you know, Austin Rock. K-Quick 2001, right? You got K-Quick on a kickoff show match right before WrestleMania 17. 23 years ago.
And he still looks great. He looks great. He hasn't aged a bit. Like
he's more entertaining now than he ever was. You know, I guess he found his niche, and it's great that he did, and he is more entertaining now than ever before.
I feel like he's been consistently in WWE for like the last 15 years, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I know he obviously did some NWA Impact here and there. I mean, I don't necessarily know, you know, I feel like he's disappeared off our TVs every so often, especially right after the 24/7 belt thing. So
he was hurt too. He was legitimately nursing an injury too. So like,
let me ask you a question.
He's been on for 15 years.
What do you think of this new name for Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, the New Catch Republic, as they take on the Judgment Day?
I was hoping they'd do something with like British Strong Style or something like I don't know how I don't really. I get it. It's like an homage to the catch wrestling, culture and what they bring from the UK. It's a great style of wrestling. I will obviously, no doubt about that. It's a very unique name. I'll leave it at that. I like both dudes. I think Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. I think it's fantastic. I'm just glad it's not Butch. I'm just glad it's back to Pete Dunne. I think they complement each other very well. And the thing is too. I like under the old regime, so to speak. I'll leave it at that. Under the old regime, these two guys were not big enough in certain people's eyes to be main event kind of players. Don't be surprised by these guys in the next few years that they could be main event players on the main roster. I enjoy these guys. I think it's going to be a good match between Judgment Day and them for the titles. Now I'm going to call my shot here. I think they win the championships.
I mean, the Judgment Day, you kind of forget that they're the champs, right? You do forget a little bit that they're the tag champs. Obviously, you know, Damian Priest having Money in the Bank, that kind of thing.
They have to drop that. They got to drop the tag belts at some point because I feel like they're due to drop the belts because I feel like they're going to do something before WrestleMania where I feel like Judgment Day is going to dissolve into something. Yeah,
and set up like some tag ladder match at WrestleMania with them and some other tag teams. That would be interesting. Elimination Chamber. We had the return of Raquel Rodriguez this past week in the last chance spot for the Women's Elimination Chamber. We have Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, we got Liv Morgan, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, and Raquel Rodriguez. Winner gets a shot at the Women's World Championship, which is the belt currently held by Rhea, because we know Bailey and Io Sky are facing off at WrestleMania on that end. Who's leaving to face Rhea Ripley or Nia Jax at Elimination Chamber?
I'll give you two answers. Who do I think's going to win? Becky Lynch. Who do I want to win? Raquel Rodriguez. That's what I think.
I think those are good. You know, Liv Morgan, obviously, a lot of people are fans of her as well, but Raquel Rodriguez, right, is a good pick because,
I'll give you something else, too.
She matches up with Nia real well. With Rhea real well, and Nia.
Best spot of this match will happen because of Tiffany Stratton. She's very acrobatic. She has a great moonsault. Yeah. She's gonna do something cool.
I tell you what, one of the most entertaining NXT matches of 2023 was Becky Lynch and Tiffany Stratton at No Mercy. So if Becky Lynch and Tiffany Stratton can kind of have some back of that magic again. Bring back some of the magic. Yeah, absolutely.
Tiffany Stratton's she's a star. Like, she's so good. Like, she's picked up the wrestling game very well. Like, she's doing a hell of a job. She is, we're going to be talking about her 5 years from now she's going to be one of the top females, not only in WWE, but in professional wrestling. That's how good she is. If I could, buy stock in a particular wrestler, especially in the women's division, I would buy a ton of shares of her because I would make a ton of money 5 years later, probably 2 years later, to be honest with you. She's a star, but I think it's not her time yet. Her time will be coming in the next couple of years. She's fantastic, but I still think I think they're going to book it for Becky to win. I do think Raquel's going to look great as well. I feel like it's either going to be Becky or Raquel that wins. That's just where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I think I will say for both Elimination Chambers, right? They're chock full of talent, right? Got a chance here to be pretty entertaining. Liv Morgan, she's been in a few Elimination Chambers. You forget, but she's been. And Tiffany Stratton, obviously, this is her first. Naomi, don't forget about her. I mean, she made her return at the Royal Rumble. She's back. She's in this match. Hopefully, she has a good showing. I think it's good on Jade Cargill not being in this match. For the fact that we don't want to ruin her, give her a loss just yet, because essentially that's
we don't want her to get lost in the shuffle either of having multiple women. Like, I want her to, her first match to be a singles match. That's just me.
So Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax, potentially this could be your main event. 50,000 people to see Rhea Ripley, to see Mommy in Australia. This could be the main event. Either way, it's definitely a headline match. Nonetheless, I mean, it's on the poster, right? Or Rhea Ripley's on the poster. Is Rhea Ripley leaving with the championship? What do you think the odds are on that?
100%.
100%. Okay.
Rhea Ripley is not losing this match. She's not losing the title. She's not losing in her home country. It's not happening. And here's the thing. I'm gonna flip a little bit. I'm gonna flip-flop from what I said a few minutes ago, or a few minutes back. Now that I think about it, it makes too much sense not to have Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax close out the show. I'm gonna flip the script from earlier on in the show. I feel like that has to be the main event because of her connections. I think they're gonna put on a great show. I think the fans will go, I'm happy, when she big fireworks, and she's gonna be like, yep, I'm still the champ.
So the Grayson Waller effect, Australia's own, man. This is his shot here.
Yeah.
He talked at Money in the Bank about WrestleMania coming to Australia. My question is Grayson Waller, first, does he get a hero's ovation or booed?
He's getting cheered. It's his home country. I think he gets cheered. No, he's getting cheered. He's getting cheered. I'd be surprised if he gets booed. I feel like I've seen it I remember back in the day, like in the States. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to compare him to Bret Hart, but like when they were in in Canada, any part of Canada, the Harts always got cheered, and then like if he was a heel, he'd get booed in the States. Like, it was no matter where. It's like Hart country. That's his country. I think he gets cheered.
Yes. So Matthew Fairley, better known in the WWE as Grayson Waller. Yeah. He is from Sydney, Australia, which is the opposite side of the country. A nice 45-hour drive away from
Is it Perth. Really that far of a drive?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that far of a drive. That's crazy.
Sydney to Perth. It's opposite sides of the country. Yeah, it'd be a 4-hour flight from Sydney to Perth. I mean, it's the same size as the United States, I believe. Australia's a big country. I'm not saying that it's all that populated, It's one of the more dangerous countries to make that drive because of its lack of population. It's documented that people have fallen asleep at the wheel trying to drive cross country because of its kind of flatness and boringness. And just 40 hours straight of nothing, right? You can only. It sounds like it's easy to do, might be fine, but people say it's treacherous in that sense of finding yourself out in the middle of nowhere. Very far away from other humans. There's a movie, Wolf Creek.
I'm looking at it here, dude. I can't believe that. When you said 41 hours, like I just pulled it up. Yeah, Perth to Sydney. Wow. And it's 3,932 kilometers, which I don't have my my abacus.
Yeah, it's the distance from New York to Los Angeles. If you're in America, that's your distance. New York to LA, that's your drive, right?
But why does it take four? Why did that? I feel like it should be quicker than that, but maybe whatever.
Well, New York to LA would be a 40-hour drive as well. So,
is it really 40 hours? I've never driven across country clearly, so I mean I've gone like 12 hours south. That's about as far as I've gone, but.
Yeah, so a cross-country drive from New York to LA would be 40 hours. It's going to take you like 3 or 4 days in a car, obviously with stops. Trying to do like 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day. It's going to take you like a week to drive from one side of the country to the other.
I didn't realize it was that. So it's like 2,500 miles. I'm just pulling up my my calculator here. So it's like 2,500 miles from one end to the other. That's crazy. I didn't realize that. I mean, I've obviously never been to Australia. I mean, I've watched some
big country. It's not England. It's not.
No, it's not.
France
or
England.
Definitely not England.
No, that's why all the people when they take trips to Europe, they take trips to like multiple countries a lot of times because they're all very nearby each other. They're more like the size of the United States. But Australia, like it's the reason why it's more than a country. It's a continent. So there you go.
Yeah,
it's the reason why it's a whole continent, not just a country.
Yeah, it's geographics here with Jared Wicks, everybody.
Yes. So Sydney to Perth. It kind of shows too, the odds of me ever going to Perth are very slim because obviously if the chances I ever get to go to Australia, which it's definitely on the list and it's definitely a possibility of places to go. I definitely don't foresee myself not going someday. It's not off the list. There's no place I think that's off the list. But I will say that if I ever do go, the odds are I'm probably going to Sydney, probably going maybe even to Melbourne, which are again on one side of the country. Perth is like its own trip. I'd have to take a 4-hour flight individually to Perth. And as of right now, I don't know what the reasoning would be behind for that. You know what I mean? So,
man, you can get there. You could book a flight for like $3,000. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most expensive place from the United States that you can fly to is Australia, because of obviously the distance and all that good jam. So it's far. Perth, it's not near Sydney, so Grayson Waller has an opportunity here to really kind of pick on the Perth people, kind of do that whole provincial thing where, he says, when I was told the Elimination Chamber was coming to Australia, I got excited because I thought they were coming to Sydney, but then I said, I heard they're coming to Perth, and that could be like, boo, that whole nonsense, right? We'll see. So they're he's from what is southwestern or southeastern Australia versus the Western Australia province, that is where Perth is. So we'll see what that is. But my question is Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, they are on the Grayson Waller effect. What kind of revelations are we getting out of the Grayson Waller effect in Perth, Australia?
I feel like we're going to be getting more talk, more trash talk. It's just going to be a lot of talk. And I do think we're going to get a challenge issued on night one of WrestleMania for a tag match between all four parties involved, which are Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns and The Rock. That's what I think.
You think a formal challenge comes out for that match at WrestleMania? Yeah,
and then WWE will sell it like, all right, well, I guess we're going to have to get Rock and Roman's answer this coming week on SmackDown.
Yes. I will say, too, one thing when it comes to presentation for WWE, I have a lot of complaints about presentation. One thing I wish they could be a little more honest about and how they, listen, SmackDown this upcoming week is pre-taped. It was taped last week in Salt Lake City, right? Yeah. So, you can say that, Drew McIntyre has a match during his promo this week on Raw. He talked about his match against LA Knight on SmackDown. That's great. You can promote it all you want. But he was like promoting it as like it's live, which we know it's not. It's silly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like promoting like it hasn't happened yet. He's like, this upcoming Friday, I'm going to face LA Knight on SmackDown. Then I'm going to board a plane and I'm going to fly to Australia. I'm going to win the Elimination Chamber. And it's like that kind of presentation thing. We don't need that. He could just say, on SmackDown, you'll see my match against LA Knight, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the presentation of it wasn't great.
We know you're not flying, from SmackDown in Salt Lake City to Australia. We know that's actually not possible because when SmackDown is airing at 8 o'clock this upcoming Friday on Fox and maybe even in Hawaii, you'll actually probably be able to watch your match. I was actually saying this. Drew McIntyre and LA Knight could probably kick back and watch their match on Friday Night SmackDown this week while sitting in their gear only a few hours in preparation to their match. In Hawaii, essentially, the pay-per-view is going to start 2 hours after the conclusion of SmackDown. So, like, that whole gimmick there, like, that just sounds stupid. We know it's obviously pre-taped. Well, it's really not possible for it to not be pre-taped.
Speaking of speaking of those guys, who do you have winning the Elimination Chamber men's match? What do you got?
Again, Drew McIntyre. How could it be anybody else?
It's going to be two choices. It comes down to two choices: Drew McIntyre or LA Knight. My heart says push LA Knight, but my head says they're booking Drew McIntyre like nobody else right now. I think it's Drew McIntyre.
Yeah. I feel like this is all these matches, other than the tag team championship, are on the predictable end here. They're pushing Drew McIntyre.
Good for him, by the way.
I guess the issue is, and we're talking about this throughout this whole segment, is that Seth Rollins and his involvement with Cody Rhodes versus The Rock and Roman seems to be like his priority versus this match against whoever he faces, and that would also takes away. If this was the number one contendership match of all number one contendership matches, to main event a pay-per-view, that'd be one thing. But this is like a number one contendership. While Seth Rollins, I imagine he's probably not going to be mentioning a lot even during the Grayson Waller effect.
But I will say,
worried about Rock and Roman over here.
An angry Drew McIntyre saying, and I'm just going to call this out like this hasn't happened or anything. I'm just my what my guess is. They're going to announce that match, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes versus Roman and Rock there in Perth. And then Drew McIntyre wins in Perth. They go to Monday Night Raw, and then Drew comes out and cuts a promo and says, your focus is on them, it should be on me, kind of a thing. That's my guess.
This upcoming Saturday, the 33rd and 34th respected Elimination Chamber matches in WWE history. Obviously, the first ones to take place in Australia. And for attendance measures, the time that Elimination Chamber was in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, the one that Brock Lesnar just manhandled Austin Theory and won the championship in 2 years ago, that was in front of 33,000. So this will be the highest attendance ever to witness an Elimination Chamber live, either at, again, the pay-per-view proper or in general, right? The pay-per-view, the first couple of these, I want to say the first 9 Elimination Chambers all took place at pay-per-views not named Elimination Chamber. I think they should not have this pay-per-view called Elimination Chamber. I understand this is the 14th Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. It's crazy to think that's how fast time flies. If this was WrestleMania, this would be the Austin Tyson Michaels WrestleMania, essentially, right? If this was if we went and how long this pay-per-views existed. It's been around for 14 years, right? And I'm over here saying that like maybe they should change it, even though it's been around for like a decade and a half. But part of the reasons is like, again, we could have a pay-per-view with the name with the match without having to have the name, because we're learning that in Germany, right? Germany, they're not allowed to call Elimination Chamber. It's called No Escape, because of obviously, history in Germany, right? So why not just make it No Escape, period, right? That way it obviously, the innuendo of it, we know, right, what match probably is going to happen at No Escape, right? It's like Survivor Series, right? You call Survivor Series, you don't always have to have the War Games tagline. Some years you can have War Games, some years not. Before tickets go on sale, if you want, you can advertise that this year's No Escape will feature the Elimination Chamber, right? That's perfectly fine. You can say at this year's we want to make sure when tickets go on sale, it's like, other pay-per-views like Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Triple H said at this upcoming Survivor Series, we will have War Games even before the matches are made official. But then, if for some reason, you're looking at long-term booking and you're saying, no, at No Escape, I just don't see the feuds and the storylines to have 2 Elimination Chamber matches. Then you're not, essentially locked in to have them. And what's nice about No Escape too is No Escape is a good name for a cage pay-per-view, an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. You can use kind of all of those things. So you can say, like with Survivor Series and War Games, right? Some years it's bragging rights with Raw and SmackDown. Some years it's War Games. Some years it's certain teams, you know what I mean? Some years it's certain brands, some years it's whatever, right? You can always change that idea, right? Survivor Series sometimes doesn't even have to have Survivor Series matches because there's been years where it hasn't. So No Escape, perfect. This year, No Escape will feature Hell in a Cell. And now that we've gotten rid of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, right, it's a perfect opportunity to kind of open that up to just be a pay-per-view where it could be a cage, it could be a chamber, it could be nothing. It's just open to whatever is at the time because, a lot of years we come there on this pay-per-view and I'm just like, we're just having Elimination Chamber matches to have Elimination Chamber matches. Frankly, they could have, Drew McIntyre versus LA Knight in a number 1 contendership match inside of a steel cage or something at this pay-per-view and have a few more matches on this card without having to have only 4 matches at this pay-per-view event. But it is what it is. Some questions are for Elimination Chamber history. We've had 34 of them after this weekend. You have any favorites that stick out to you or even Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, things that stick out to you?
Not really. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, to me, it's run its course for me. I'm not the biggest Elimination Chamber fan. Like, I mean, I can remember, I think, what was it, the last couple of years, like Montez doing that crazy flip.
Montez last year, yeah, in Montreal. Yeah. I mean, I hear that. I think Elimination Chamber last year, one of the best pay-per-views of 2023, and that had 5 matches on the card. So it's crazy because they have 4 on this one. And last year's had Roman Reigns as one of them in what was a match that I think didn't need, and that kind of showed you right there. Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, that was a match that didn't need the Elimination Chamber were like accoutrement to that match that was the headliner. Here, is that what we're getting with Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley? Is Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley this year the hometown person in a championship match? Is that that's this year's version of Roman versus Sammy? I don't think the Nia Jax Rhea Ripley storyline is really going to draw the same kind of fervor from the crowd for their hometown girl.
Mommy's home. That's what it is. Their son is Mommy's home.
I did enjoy Brock Lesnar going through the field. I don't care. I enjoyed Brock Lesnar going through the field and throwing Austin Theory off Elimination Chamber a couple of years ago. I found that to be quite entertaining, in the history of this pay-per-view. Some other ones, I've enjoyed. Obviously, the first one, the original, which was Shawn Michaels winning the Survivor Series. I enjoyed one that I was at, New Year's Revolution. John Cena winning the belt, retaining the belt, and immediately having his championship cashed in on by Edge. That was a good time. One that you forget about that should be forgotten about for all the time is the Extreme one at December to Dismember. That was a dumb Elimination Chamber where Bobby Lashley, he's won the Elimination Chamber before. He won the ECW belt against Big Show, CM Punk, Hardcore Holly, RVD, and Test into that Elimination Chamber. So those are some memorable moments inside of this structure created by Eric Bischoff. Good for Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, I love Eric Bischoff. That's my guy. I saw that. I know he's the creator of it. To be honest with you, I'm not the biggest Elimination Chamber guy. I just think I like Hell in a Cell better. That's just me. I'm a Hell in a Cell guy. I mean, I just kind of grew up on Hell in a Cell with Mankind and Undertaker. Undertaker throwing him off the cage, hitting the table, and everything like that. To me, I just prefer the Hell in a Cell. I'm gonna sit back and watch the matches and enjoy them and watch the show, but I'm not the biggest Elimination Chamber guy. Even though Eric Bischoff's my guy, I just feel like it's just, I don't know. We have enough cage matches. It's just a different version of it.
So long story short, this pay-per-view this Saturday, based on the card, is it worthy of waking up? Probably not. But if you're a WWE fan and it's just the novelty of it, we're gonna do it. I'm gonna wake up. It's a pay-per-view event. They only happen essentially once a month. It's a Saturday of all days to do it. New Japan, with their issue with Wrestle Kingdom for us here in the States, is it's not just 5 a.m., but it's also like on a Wednesday. So that's where the difficulty lies with that. But this is a Saturday. I'll wake up. I'll check it out. I'll watch it. Hopefully it's an entertaining pay-per-view, and we will see if it was worth waking up or not. But either way, I mean, that's the whole nature of being a wrestling fan. We'll bitch about it and say that wasn't worth waking up, or we'll say that was worth waking up. But the card itself, I will say there's nothing on this card that's going to make me wake up a non-wrestling fan to have to see this. As of right now, right?